And the framework I've been using is the Abhidhamma model of 4 planes of consciousness. You have the level of sense desire consciousness, which is our ordinary default mode in human form. The plane of form, which is jhana, and the plane of the formless, which is the arupa jhanas, or the boundless, or the formless states. And then the 4th level is the unconditioned nibbana, and this is quite outside and separate from the other 3. And it's the goal of the path, is to realize the unconditioned. Everything in the other 3 modes of consciousness is conditioned, sankhata, which means that it's subject to cause and effect, it's inherently provisional, imperfect, coming and going. Any form of manifestation, any form of becoming, coming into existence, is in a sense a kind of brokenness. It's an imperfection. That there's inherent flaw in things. This is dukkha. This is the universal quality of dukkha that applies to all conditioned forms, all levels of conditioned consciousness. And ordinarily we're caught in the condition because of ancient habit of mind. We might call the original addiction or primordial habit of mind. That mind wants to take an object. So it sets up at each moment a duality of subject-object. And there's a continuous stream of objects passing through the mind. And if the person is not skillful, is not wise, then these objects take over. And we are buffeted around by the opposing forces of fear and fascination. The objects are perceived as either tantalizing, wonderful, desirable, or as fearsome, dangerous, horrible, scary. And we're pulled around back and forth, caught up in this maelstrom of objects. With developed insight, with enough calm and clarity in the mind, we can see the objects without grasping them. We see them in their own nature, and the objects are all of them imperfect, that is dukkha, they're imperfect, provisional, not satisfying. They're impermanent, meaning that they come and go, they're transient, they're flickering in and out of existence. And they're empty of substance, they're void, they're without a self-reference point. Nothing exists from its own side. These are the 3 characteristics, anicca, anatta, dukkha. And all conditioned phenomena are inherently bound up with these 3 characteristics. And they're within conditioned reality, there are no exceptions. And although the phenomena of existence are manifold and complex, when they're analyzed down to their basic level, then they're seen as just these three qualities: dukkha, anicca, anatta. When we can develop our mind so that we can experience other levels of consciousness, we're simplifying the problem. When you move from the sense desire realm to the realm of form, you're, as it were, shedding a whole big chunk of samsara. The problem of existence is still there, but it's simplified. You've gotten rid of a whole big layer of it, and again moving to the formless, you simplify the problem again. We sometimes we model the various levels of consciousness and realms of existence. You can see drawings, the charts, diagrams, so model them in a vertical manner with the higher realms at the top and the lower realms at the bottom, either as just a flat diagram or sometimes it's drawn as a pyramidal kind of shape. I'd like to suggest perhaps another way of thinking of it as concentric circles, like a bullseye target. At Nirvana at the center, and then outside of that is the formless, and then outside of that is the realm of form, and then the last and widest ring is the sense desire realm, which in itself has very many levels and layers. And you're moving closer to the center of the target when you move your consciousness up the scale. So that the layers closest to Nibbana are just barely in existence. This is samsara at its simplest. However, that doesn't make it easier for the beings that exist at that level to experience Nibbana, because they're essentially so close already. There's so little samsara there. There's no impetus. It's said that this human level of existence is the optimum for attaining awakening because of the mixture of pleasure and pain here. There's enough pain and suffering to know that to realize that there's a problem, but we're not. Most human beings, most of the time, are not so overwhelmed by it that they're helpless. As in the lower realms, beings are quite helpless to do anything about it, and in the higher realms, they're lulled into complacency by the ease of their conditions, so that there's no sense of urgency. There's not a sense that something needs to be done. So, while it's very useful to explore these alternate modes of consciousness, it's important to have right understanding, not to mistake them for full awakening. It's quite different. Nibbana, or the unconditioned, is quite different from any modality of consciousness that we can call conditioned, that we can experience in these various levels. It was really the genius of the Buddha to see that, because when he was a bodhisattva, before he was fully awakened, when he was wandering in India seeking path and seeking teachings, he encountered two teachers, one of him who took him up to the level of mastery of the base of nothingness, and then one who took him up to the level of neither perception nor non-perception. And the Buddha saw that this was not complete. There's still something beyond this, which was a very remarkable thing, because no one had told him that. And these teachers believed that they had reached the highest possible state of attainment and passed this on to the Buddha. And they were overjoyed when the Buddha was able to master it as well. But he still respectfully took his leave and said, this is not the end, this is not the final end of suffering. I still have more work to do. Because essentially in these levels, one is still in existence. There's still a subject-object duality. There's still consciousness taking an object. And the samsaric process, although simplified to its barest bones, is still present. It's not the unconditioned. It's not freedom from that process. And whatever comes into existence passes out of existence. So inevitably, when there's birth and when there's becoming, there's death and destruction. These are two sides of the same coin. So how do we then make an end of all the conditioned phenomena? That is by making an end of the process of subject-object. By not doing samsara, then Nibbana is realized. The formal way of doing this is noticing with the mind, noticing the objects in a clear, methodical, objective way. This is what we call vipassana. That the objects are taken by the mind fully aware and consciously, and the effort is made to be completely clear and neutral about the objects, not to give way to reaction, not to succumb to fear and fascination, but just observe the object in its own nature. This is a training that can be long and difficult, because we're so used to getting lost in the objects, identifying with the objects or taking them as significant or important. The rule should be nothing is so trivial that it can be ignored, and nothing is so important it has to be held on to. Just allow the objects to pass through the mind, and sitting in a place of equanimity of upekkha, without reaction. And by doing that, we don't end the process then and there, but we make it conscious and we don't feed it any more energy, so that it becomes like a flywheel running down after you turn the engine off. And it continues turning for a time, but we're not adding any energy to the system, so it runs itself out. The mental state called nibbida arises. Nibbida is one of those words that's quite impossible to translate adequately. It has a sense of being disenchanted with the process, being weary of the process. Letting the mind begin to disengage, and this leads to viraga, dispassion, when the energy of passionate engagement in the process ceases. This is the second noble truth. This is the truth of desire. This is the energy that keeps the whole samsaric wheel turning, is this passion, desire for becoming, existence, experience, and so on. And when that fades, then that allows nirodha, cessation, for the process to stop. And when the process stops, nibbana is realized, the unconditioned. And it's done by being fully awake and fully conscious and equanimous, not non-reactive, peaceful, calm, not getting engaged or upset or concerned or fascinated, but just letting things pass through the mind. And that is the goal of the path, that is liberation, is the realization of the unconditioned. Vimutti, liberation, or bodhi, awakening. This is what the whole path is leading towards. Until that point, we're more or less bound, we're fettered to the senses and to desires and fears and anxieties and so on. But when the mind has realized the unconditioned, it changes everything. It releases everything within the being. And it is possible to do. It's something that's possible for us as human beings. And we shouldn't be discouraged. You can think, to begin with, that you've already come a long way. The fact that you have been born as a human being, and that you have been born in a time and place when you have the opportunity to hear the Dhamma and to practice the Dhamma, this is already exceedingly rare. And this is the result of much previous karma. So you've already crossed the great ocean. You've already come a long way to this position where you have an open door. But you should make an effort to make the most of it. While you have this opportunity, you have this human form, and you have the opportunity to study the Dhamma and practice the Dhamma, because there's no guarantee that this will remain so.